Welcome to the second part. Now that I can create parts that are nicely segregated without me just suddenly halting and stopping, I can introduce the second part. Please go check out the previous part to get your bearings. In the previous part I was speaking about all of these random marriages with Muriel's all over the show. Yeah, that's what's good. Korobela produces Muriel's wedding. Do you understand what I'm saying? Bring Back Lost Lover produces Muriel's wedding. The Lord is amazing enough to give a person a hint that they under a spell, that they are settling hard. They have everything they need in order to make a difficult decision, but it is a lot less difficult than divorce. Understand, to make a decision to basically abandon the venue that you've paid for 50% deposit that thing is far easier than divorce papers, emotionally and likely even financially. And also given, you know, human beings that have been created in that joint as well. And I'm speaking, of course, right now, isolating it from those people who decide to go and have children before wedlock. But those who decide to have children before wedlock because you don't know Jesus, again, I spoke about this the other day. There are men and women out there that are more than happy to absolutely adore your little baby girl and your little baby boy because they adore you. Like they'll marry you with your child belonging to another man or to another woman because of the fact that you cannot just marry somebody that, man, like apprehension for days. Apprehension for days. Like you can't just do that. And the Lord gives you that apprehension. That's what I'm getting at. I'm a born-again Christian, fine, so I'm super protected. Okay. I have a spiritual gifting to see random strange stuff very well. But apprehension is a ubiquitous gift from God that He awards you. Those cold feet, they're ubiquitous. He gives them to everybody. You might not all get dreams about his korobela. But if you don't really love somebody, if you were already done ngomuntu, if you were finished over there, if it was klar, and you are now out here, like walking now, proper. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk, never mind all over you, but out from you. When that decision has been made, you can tell that you're being, basically, you're settling. You can, like, yo, people can just tell when they're settling. They can tell. They can tell. And the unfortunate thing with Muriel's wedding is that it tends to largely afflict women. Why? Because you're the ones that are being pressurized like no man's business by this whole biological clock ticking thing alongside our alleged expiration once we excel past the age of 32. So ageism ransacks us the most, more than men, and so too does I guess the biological clock. Yeah. Our alleged declining fertility from the time that we turn 35 makes us Muriel's husbands. Yo, guys, y'all are gonna get hurt something bad. I speak at length against Ikorobela in my ministry precisely because of the ramifications of it in the long run. Like, the spiritual ones at that, and long run really at this stage I'm speaking eternal run. Sometimes the run is eternal. Like, a bad marriage to a wicked man or a wicked woman can condemn you. It can condemn you. The scriptures are clear that the feet of an immoral woman lead to death. So men that marry the Jezebel, it can condemn you. And women, it is written in God's word that the earth cannot bear up under an unloved woman who gets married. There are ramifications to lenyalo that is when you don't deliberate ever so lengthily prior to your marriage as to the pros and cons of this thing, entering into it and then reach a sound conclusion. When you go in, you are gonna find yourself strangely going through with Muriel's wedding. That's the first oddball. The fact that you are going through with Muriel's wedding. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and many who have wandered after it have pierced themselves with many pains. A lot of times people finish weddings that they ain't feeling per se because of money. Why? Maybe because somebody that you're marrying has a lot of it, or because you've already invested so much. You've already invested so much. Like these chunky, big, fat, like Greek weddings, I use that because it's the name of a movie, are expensive. And you also have to call very many months in advance sometimes to get those venues. And you got to put down deposits of which they tell you if you cancel if you cancel within this range of time, we're going to take 25% of your money, or we're going to take 50% of your money. You're not going to get all your money back. Yeah. And so people think about the 50,000 rands that they're going to lose because of the venue. They think about the bespoke dress that was made by a tailor that costs 75,000 rands, and they don't want to have to basically part ways with 35 grand of that 75,000 because of the fact that they are now no longer getting married, or they don't want to, yeah, you get my point. The time invested. the food that you order. Like, guys, the ones who are with especially hard, not cold feet on their wedding days, with them, it's never mind loss of 50% of the deposit, but it's all of it, because this is the day, girl. I've seen, you know, Mariah Carey has this song called We Belong Together. Na 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 na. We belong together, baby. When I lost you, lost us, and me, and you get so. The music video is about this very phenomenon. A woman who makes a decision on her wedding day, literally right in front of the groom, that is the wrong guy, to just get out of there. And then she runs away with Michael Scofield, or, you know, the dude from Prison Break. She runs off with him because that's the one that she's always been in love with. While the guy is standing at a distance looking at her on some, so you're going to finish this, you're going to conclude that. And then she makes a decision at the very last minute. Now, if you're a bit of a Mariah Carey in that instance, you are losing maybe even several hundreds of thousands of rands on a wedding day. But that is how much the Lord convicts you all the way up until the final hour. All the way up until the final hour. Like, all the way up until the I do. He says you can get out. All the way up until that disappointing moment. But he tends to have given you a lot to run with in the run-up to, so you don't waste all that money. So you don't lose all your deposit. But the longer you wait, the more losses there are. And also, the more likely that you're going to be afflicted with vitriol. You're going to hurt not just the guy, but his family. You're going to embarrass not just the guy, but his family, or the girl. Really, it could go both ways. You're going to embarrass and hurt the guy and the family. You are going to create beef between families as a result of that, right? You are going to create, you're going to lose friends for that, for what you did. It's going to be ugly, and you're going to look really terrible. You're going to look trashy. You're going to look bad in comparison to the one that was left at the altar. But the Lord gives you all the way up to the altar, because once you tie that knot, it's exactly that, a knot. Understand, you are trapped in it literally for eternity. Why? Because it's an eternal covenant in the sight of God. And the only thing that can separate you from that man or that woman is death, that can legally allow you to marry another man or another woman. And if this person doesn't die, you then band yourself, tie yourself permanently to the status of an adulterer or an adulteress. You make yourself somebody that the Lord will never ever regard with favor, because you are remarried. So, I mean, just the potential for the eternal ramifications of that I do at the final hour. You then need to look at things that way. I guess, think about, the Bible says that the glory of the pastures, life is like the glory of the pastures. It's a brevity. Here today, gone tomorrow. Yeah, it's nothing much really. Like, let's not write home about it too exquisitely. It's not that deep, because you're here today, gone tomorrow. That's human beings. So really just focus on God. Do a better thing that you might enter into his eternal rest. That's what's good. Yeah. Well, a life is how many years, if at all, you live well and long? Maybe 100. Let's say 100 years. 120 is what it is that the Lord will strive with for the human race. So let's take it all the way to the nth degree, the umpteenth degree. 120 years. A life is 120 years, based on the scriptures, right? In comparison to forever, it's literally like the glory of the pastures. In comparison to eternity past, first and foremost, before you were born, however, you were knit together in your mother's womb from eternity past. You were created from even before you were born. You were placed inside a timeline that would determine your forked state. It would determine at the fork, whether at death you go to heaven or you go to hell. So, however, you were created from eternity past to go through this brevity, that this fork might be determined as left or right. Left or right. So this 120-year brevity, in comparison to all of forever, it's worth the while to take the reputational damage in your stride, the family feud, the hatred, the people who are gonna ghost you, never want to see you ever again, the reviling, the name calling. Do you understand? When you just leave some dude now at the altar. Selfish. How could you? Who does that? All that money. Those are things that people are going to say about you. But when you know, you know, you know. And the thing about you being selfish, to all that jazz, that everybody speaks, will all of a sudden pale and fade in comparison, like proper, like they're going to become so minuscule, those voices are going to just go all the way far away in the distance. When you're with the right guy, when you're marrying the right man, everyone that basically walked out on you, I guess they're not in your life anymore, but there are others who stayed, and there are others who you met that you then gathered for yourself later on that are now in your life, and they're at the wedding that you're supposed to basically have. And that wedding thing, you might not even spend all those like hundreds of thousands of rands just to get married. It might be a quick thing, but it's the guy. It's the guy. And the thing about people is, like I said, they've got this whole amnesia problem. They've got a short-term memory problem. Yeah. They've got a long-term memory problem, sorry. They only remember things that are today, tomorrow, and maybe day after. But after that, they move on. People move on. That's why we are able to live our lives properly after people have died. I want to move on. So people will move on from the fact that you done stood some dude up at the altar. And they will embrace family we creating with the person that is the guy. Only look at the reverse of this instance, for instance. Look at how people who get divorced, like men who cheat on wives. Men who cheat on wives, women who cheat on husbands. And then boo-boo, it's a whole brawl, and then there is a divorce. And at the very beginning of the divorce, and maybe some months afterwards, years maybe, there is a lot of bitterness, a lot of anger. People bachosheba snacks up and down. You cheated on Cassandra. Goodness, you're gross, you're disgusting. And you're gonna have a bad rap with some people, and Cassandra will probably hold it in her heart, maybe forever. Yeah. But Peter, who was Cassandra's ex-husband, when then he goes on to meet Caroline, and let's say Caroline, never mind meeting Caroline, let's say he cheated on Cassandra with Caroline, and Caroline and him then get married, and then they have children, and they have like a whole solid family. All of a sudden the world forgets that Peter had an ex by the name of Cassandra, and Caroline is now regarded by Peter's circle as Peter's wife. And Caroline, when she gives birth to Peter's babies, they forget that there's another woman that also gave Peter babies. Like they literally forget about the ex. Look at what happened with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Look at how the whole world went and regarded Angelina Jolie as Brad Pitt's legitimate wife when we all remembered Jennifer Aniston. But I mean, the world forgot. The world forgot. A small percentage might remember Jennifer, but the world forgot, and they were on some Brangelina. The same thing is true with Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade. For a minute, Dwayne Wade's wife was regarded as the woman that's always around in the picture, and then they got divorced, blah blah, whatever happened over there. Claimed nobody was cheating on anybody, but it is clear that Gabrielle Union was one of the stumbling blocks in Dwayne Wade's life where the wife was concerned. And then they got married, and the wedding, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade was so elaborate. It was just so picturesque. It was celebrity, and all of those gestures that she made, all of that joy, the exorbitant beauty of Gabrielle Union made the world forget. It made the world forget about the wife, the former wife of Dwayne Wade. And then the marriage commenced, I suppose. And then there was the blended family that they were now all rolling around in, and that blended family was adored, and everybody was taking pictures, and nobody was even trying to talk about the ex. Well, that's the opposite, really mean side of it all. But the right way upside of it all, or that whole scene with a little bit of a Brangelina and a little bit of a Dwabiella, whatever you want to call it, right? Yeah. The Brangelina Dwabiella phenomenon is utterly feasible and possible for people who never quite married. Aniston and the former wife of Dwayne Wade, but almost married. Like, you are far more likely to recover from standing a man up at the altar rather than having to go through a divorce altogether. The divorce is gonna win you a lot more slack. It's gonna afflict you farther. And it's also going to be in the sight of God just an abomination. It's that basic. Especially when you are leaving a marriage because you are in another relationship and you are trying to divorce your husband for that guy or your wife for that girl. Yeah, the world forgets. And so because the world forgets, those of y'all who are about to enter into your first marriages and you are apprehensive, you got those cold feet, get out. Even if you will initially have somebody throwing potatoes, bananas at you, all different kinds of vitriol, calling you all different kinds of nasty stuff, and you know how about when they speak smack about you, especially in the black community. Man, you gotta protect Gabriella. You don't have your own car, and so when you're looking, they will talk about you like, yo, Karabo, so much, so spitefully, and to think all the things that Temba did for her, to think or spendile his savings on all that. She did not deserve him. And from what I understand, she was busy flirting with some colleague officing. That's what caused all of this. So the S word, description of a woman's basic sexual proclivity. Yeah, that made her do this. also broken hearted and what's bounce back the way that basadi ba bounce back ka thing. So she might have damaged him for life. I mean, and some of them as well, people not even severing you. They're not severing you this time. They are telling you to your face because they're that upset with what you did. It'll sting when people are speaking smack about you, especially in the black community. We are harsh with our words, and in the language it's especially piercing, it's especially taxing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kunzima. It's hard. Kodwa abantu bayakhohlwa. The human race is fickle, guys. We are a fickle conglomerate. Do you understand what I'm saying? The human race is fickle, and because the human race is as fickle as it is, they will forget bazokhohlwa and enothemba wakhona that they all initially consoled. They're gonna be like, at some point, so everybody gotta, you know, go home after comforting the bereaved, after comforting the mournful. We gotta move on. Just like Vele Vele with funerals. You know how everybody's out there in the week running up to Lifu, comforting the family, but after that, empty, tumbleweed all over the show. The house is now quiet, and that's when the mourning sets in, because people are not always like, how you doing? All right. They're not busy sending you little casseroles and bringing you baked goods. Nah, this time around, ba movile on, because bahu tu sitze fitil. Yeah. Well, their solace and their comfort for Temba at your expense, or for Binky at Temba's expense, is going to simmer down too. It's also going to simmer down. Y'all need to, you need to realize that marriage is a legacy. It is something that you start, basically building the blocks of it from the beginning of your life. And it'll last for the rest of your life if the Lord will grant you longevity, in the sense that he will keep both of you alive. You will grow together old. You will see children grow. You will watch, what is this? You will watch children grow. You will attend weddings of children. God forbid funerals. You will attend weddings of children. You will take them to school, universities. You will attend graduations. You will spend life with a person that you are monitoring the growing lives of people that you created. And you can't do that with a person you don't like, guys. You cannot do that with someone you kind of cringe when you look at them walk right past you. I mean, relationships are sappy that way. Y'all can agree. When you're in a long-term relationship with somebody, there comes a time when even the direction of yawning that he does, Kenya, everything just irritates you when initially you thought everything about them was super cute. Those are things that people have to deal with in marriages. And so if it's somebody that really, like from the very get-go already his yawn was annoying you, but you married him anyway, it starts to agitate you even more because you were never that in love with him. You know, like when you're very much in love with a person, their snoring is like, goodness, Tom, whoa, man, you need to go and see a snoring specialist or whatever. Or you make it a joke. You make it a joke because at the end of the day, wamorada. But when you don't love them, even more so, is it just going to be extremely irritating to you that he snores. Yeah, extremely irritating. So, I mean, guys, you gotta teach yourselves to walk. You gotta know when to get out. You gotta know when to get the step in. You gotta, at whatever point, when literally conviction, at whatever point it sets in, you need to get out at that stage. And sometimes conviction comes very early, so you're blessed enough to basically reject a proposal when it comes your way. But the thing is, why are you even with him in the first place if you know that that's how you feel? And secondly, conviction can also come late, however, early enough for you to not start a legacy with somebody that's going to be irritating you all of your life. And by late, I mean on the wedding day. By late, I mean 2 months before the wedding. By late, I mean you've already paid for the venue. By late, I mean you've already paid for the price per seat. By late, I mean you've already sent out the invitations. By late, I mean every different kind of weird, strange thing is already happening. And black people, women, that lobola is married, okay? Because it was in the Bible. Once a bridal price is paid, the bride is yours. So once you have been paid amalobolo for, you're his wife. So I'm not speaking white wedding here, because some black chicks might be like, angachadi. No, if at all you've been paid lobola for, ungetswe. That's it. Lobola is the final thing, because it was in the Bible, the final thing. Bridal price is the finished process. So you should not even allow a dude ukukipela malobolo. The moment njefela you have that hint, that nudge inside you, uguti, this is what's going on. This is how you feel. You gotta be basically brave. You gotta be brave. And so for black people as well, I guess it sort of kind of helps because you don't first pay for that big fat chunky white wedding venue. Kilobola. ke ko maheno khwatwa khotlo emoko di gating abo vumela makhwenyana blah blah. They first gotta be a process nyana yok patala abo uncle and whatnot. And when a dude is out here negotiating amalobola wako, that's when you should be like, nah, stop, like, you know when to stop. You know, like black women especially, how under heaven we romanticize the prospect of uchadwa. We just romanticize it. Do you understand? It is just so, like, our men, the way that they so don't propose to us, the way the way they date us for so long, by the time the dude is like, baby, we get so excited to a point even of ignoring our apprehension with the guy. I was like that with my ex-boyfriend. I keep saying to people that 6 months into our relationship that lasted 4.5 to 5 years, I was already kind of sick. Yeah. Because he was already pulling stunts. So I stayed in that relationship 4.5 years longer than I was supposed to. So at any given time after that 6-month mark, if my ex-boyfriend had basically decided to take out a malobolo, I would have been settling. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because that's the thing, like, apprehension. I remember 1 year, my boyfriend kept on telling me that he's got a surprise for me on my birthday, and he made it such a big deal. He made it such a big, like, he made it sound like it was such a huge thing that he was doing for me for my birthday. And my cousin and I were deliberating, we were thinking, wondering, and my cousin was like, what if it's a proposal? What if it's a marriage proposal? And I said to my cousin, I know, like, I think it might actually be that. It never was. He just got me a very expensive gift, but it was not marriage. Like, men, stop saying to women that I've got a surprise for you if it's not a ring, because usually that's what we expect. Okay, anyway, whatever. My cousin and I were like, it could be, maybe he's gonna propose. And I was like, maybe it is. And I was determined that if he was going to propose to me, of course I was going to say yes. It was an automatic yes for me if my ex-boyfriend proposed marriage to me. But despite it being an automatic yes, in my heart and in my mind, I was so disquieted by so very many things in our relationship that I would have been settling in so saying yes. The thing that made me feel like it was an automatic yes was the fact that I wanted to get married. You see, that's just the issue. Like, not just black women, but women. You need to realize that your desire for marriage can sometimes stumble you if you don't separate it from who it is that you marry. You need to realize that your desire can stumble you. Like I said, your desire to get married can cause you to marry anyone. There is this one comedian in the country, a black girl, Lihle. Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that her name was just brought back to me like that. Lihle. One time she was being interviewed with a bunch of other celebs. Some show that interviews celebrities and they keep on changing, like, yeah, what was it called? Some show where they just interview celebrities for their opinion on matters, and she was one of the celebrities that was invited on this show. And they asked something about marriage, like manyalo and what have you. And Lihle, like, literally, when she said this, like, she proper said this, I was like, girl, wakulo. I was like, no way. She was like, it's very hard. And Lihle looks like such a strong-willed woman. She looks like she is so firm and sturdy on her feet. So I was disappointed to hear that coming from her. She was like, it's these guys all over the show. Abachad, they don't propose. They don't marry. So when one rocks up with a little ring, like abarinya, like packet, just take it. It's hard because it's hard out there. It's difficult. I don't know if she was making a joke or if she was being serious because she's a comedian. I was like, hey girl, you're not serious. Any guy in the fella like leseboto haka go a gonyala monke because about proposal amadota. Yeah, the very mindset of Lihle is the thing that stumbles a lot of women, knowing that you want to get married. And so therefore, and that's why you should not just recreationally date. That's why y'all need to turn your lives over to Christ, that he might help you understand what it is that you ought to expect in a man. And on top of that, date intentionally. In other words, known as courting. Enter into chats or discussions with men with the intention of getting married, and not merely just having some drinks, not merely just having a night out for fun. You have to determine for marriage, and you also need to only allow men that are that serious and happy to put that best foot forward and let you know what their intentions are from the get-go. Otherwise, everybody else is wasting time. Recreational dating ought to be off the table altogether. And on top of that, sex before marriage, it must just be outruled. That's why you need to give your lives to Christ, that only godly men will pursue you. And whoever it is that you allow to enter into your space will understand himself as courting you, and not merely just going for drinks. There was a guy at MTN that I dated briefly, The only Christian man the first guy that I dated as a Christian 2 years after my breakup from my ex. I dated him for like 2 months and we broke up because of that random rubbish. He was not even, I already told you the story about this guy. It's like I was giving him a quiz on the weakest link, asking him what his intentions were for me, because he pursued me knowing I was a Christian woman as a professing Christian man, and he did not come with all of his ducks in a row. He did not put cards on the table. He did not do any such thing. He was trying to date me the way that I've been dating all my life prior to Christ. It was just unacceptable. Going to Ocean Basket, having some fish and coming back home. What are we doing? What are we talking about? What are your plans? You need to when you court a woman, you basically interview for marriage. You gauge at all if at all she is the right one, and she gauges if you are right, because you talk about things that are relevant for a future with a person that you're going to be building a legacy with. You speak about such relevant matters, life goals, like futures, what you're gonna both do, what your interests are, do you think they're aligned, and could this work together in a union? The two of us really like just do this in a union that is a marriage, and then foster or build a family with that foundation. That's how it should be. And when it's not like that, those are alarm bells that should just be ringing and ringing. And so you know basically what it is that you're dealing with from the get-go. But when you just date in the world, recreational dating creates this thing of marrying whoever will propose first. That's what recreational dating does. Courting, you enter into it knowing that you are interviewing, I guess, a couple of candidates, maybe. It might just be one, because you hit a bullseye the very first time around. But it is literally like an interview process in corporate, where you first go for the first interview and then a psychometric test, and then you go for a panel interview, and then they only choose one candidate. It should be like that, but not always. You could be dealing with just one guy the entire time, but that one guy does go through the first interview, the psychometric test, and the panel, and then he becomes the only candidate that ultimately marries you. Or it could be 2 or 3. It could even be 4. And with all of these 4 people, you are literally gathering data to figure out if at all he is aligned to what you desire. And of course, your feelings. You gotta have feelings. You gotta be all in. Your heart gotta be pounding for this person. You gotta be mad in love. You can't just marry a person because they do this and they do that, etc. But in the 21st century, unfortunately, this is what a person has, and so it's likely gonna work out for me in the future. Guys, women need love. And women, when you put yourselves in a marriage where there is no love, you are messing with that which is your default setting. Men need respect, and if you don't insist on finding a woman that can do that for you, you're messing with your default setting. It's that basic. You're messing with your default setting, meaning you're going to be agitated as a man with old school values, settling for these slay queens. You're gonna frustrate the living daylights out of yourself, and women are also gonna frustrate themselves settling, knowing that their default setting is a strong desire for love. You're going to find yourself very frustrated when your default setting is disrespected by a guy that withholds affection. You know how they do that in the black community? They withhold affection, full of reverse psychology, not trying to say they love you first or fast, not trying to make it clear how they feel. Goodness gracious, it's so bad that black women are always out here doing songs of that nature. Tony Braxton's "Just Be a Man About It," like they sing all these songs complaining about how it is that guys are just not showing feelings. They're holding back, and like there's like a whole misogynistic man cave that has clubbed around the premise of not giving women what they want. Don't blow their heads up, don't toot their horns, do not let them know how much you feel them. Let them grovel, let them beg for that first "I miss you." There's like a whole camp of men that think that that's how you handle women. And if you allow yourself to get married to a man like that, you will forever be withheld from praise. You will forever be held from affection. You will forever be held from like that which you need as a woman. You will be parched. You will be starved. You will be famished. And that is a recipe for an adulterous affair. Your recipe at disaster. That's what's good. But women are just taking nonsense. Lots of it in their stride. I guess men too. But right now, I'm trying to speak to some females. Like Muriel's wedding. It's just unacceptable. And I'm having this discussion right now because I am pursued by Muriel. I'm being pursued by Muriel. Gangani. A person that's going to be beaming, smile from like waiting cheek to cheek, looking like the Joker on a wedding day where I am never mind apprehensive, but just entirely grossed out. So I gotta talk about it because it's an issue all across these streets. It's a problem. It is a whole thorough mistaken walk-in that people need to avoid with every bone in their body, because a marriage is a legacy creation. You are building a future with a human being. For crying out loud, you're making other human beings, and these human beings are going to honor and favor your union together to a point where when you break up, they are going to have some pretty vile opinions about that breakup. Kids are going to be used by the devil as well to just frustrate the living daylights out of you because they have got very high opinions of their parents, even when the individual parents have no respect for each other. You can't just run head first. What in the world? Put your head in the sand like an ostrich when you're dealing with an issue of that nature. You can't just settle, guys. Anyway, whatever. Okay, let's a guy. I don't want to lose my train of thought. But what I'm trying to explain to you, yes, I was saying what recreational dating, not recreational dating, but the desire to get married, that a lot of women just kind of automatically carry it. They have it like just from the moment they are children, they're already fantasizing about their wedding day. Yeah, that can, when you are recreationally dating, when you're just jollaring, experimenting, testing the market, just to go and eat some chicken at a restaurant and see a movie and go partying together and go to picnics and jazz festivals and what is this, like to the neighbor goods market and to like flea markets and wine tastings and basically all that which a couple can do. Okay, that's what's good. Picnics, yeah. When you are just doing that, you will do it with 4 or 5 guys. Never mind 4 or 5 guys, but the one guy that you are doing that with a lot, should he make a decision ukuthi ufuna ukuchata, uzomchata just cause ufuna ukuchatwa. You will accept his proposal just cause you wanna get married, lady girl. Ufuna ukuchata. So lo muntu that you keep on going to picnics with, this person that you keep on going to the movies with, this person that you keep on going to wine tasting with, this person that you keep on going to the neighbor goods market with, this person that you keep on going to the flea markets with, this person that you keep going to Cape Town with, to the overseas trip with, this person that you just keep doing all of these recreational activities with, like Impinjako, when he proposes, whether or not you've got apprehension, whether or not whether or not there are deal breakers that he is walking in, you will accept that proposal. I'm a boyfriend, especially when they've been lasting for very long, when you've been with this guy for years. You default the fact that if he proposed uzomchata, guys, you all know that. It's a default. It was like that with me, with my ex-boyfriend. If that guy had proposed marriage to me, you must understand, why would I say no? For me, it was like, I'm spending all this time with you. Top of that, I'm having sex with you. Like, we do everything together. We're practically married. And so whether or not he's stolen from me before, whether or not he's dragging his feet, whether or not, like all these things that are, it said that ought to be, anyway, I'm a deal breaker in a relationship. They're not gonna matter. Why? Because you were not interviewing a man for marriage. You were just being with somebody hoping it'll end up in marriage. You were just exploring these streets. Guys, how can I describe this? It's like thinking of the interview process to get a job, go corporate South Africa. Imagine if your boss went to like what do you call this thing? Imagine if your boss went to a conference. Yeah. Imagine your boss going to a conference, and at that conference is made to sit on the same table with, like, 10 other people. And then she gets along quite well with one particular chick at that conference. They hit it off. They do all different kinds of team building exercises, blah, blah, blah. They don't know each other. They just met each other there. Your boss works for MTN. This chick works for Old Mutual. And the two of them hit it off. It's a conference for business people that want, I guess, to get this particular information. And after all the activities, they like each other quite a bit. However, your boss, does not fully know this person, and there are a couple of things that your boss is not quite content with, but she's good people's. And then let's say that conference is like one of those weekend conferences where it is that you sleep over at a hotel, you sleep over at a venue, at some rondavel joint. And so they spend the night there, toasting, cheering, drinking some wine, laughing, get along like a house on fire. They basically become fast friends. And then on Monday morning, after your boss comes back home and whatnot, Monday morning, next to you, there is some chick sitting, and the administrator of the team is told, please order a laptop and an access card, and this because this person works for the company. This person now works for MTN. This is our new program manager. And this chick is just sitting next to you. And you are like, oh, okay, what's your name? Diana. Hi, Diana. Cool. So where did you work before? Oh, I was just yesterday, like just last week on Friday, I was at Old Mutual, but I made a decision to move to MTN. The last weekend? For real? Oh. And then you ask the boss, in private. Boss lady. So Diana, she seems like good people. How did she end up at MTN? Oh, I just said that, like, you know, after we parted ways, after the team building, that she should start working for me on Monday. And yeah, the chick did not give a notice at Old Mutual, did not go through an interview process at all to enter into MTN. But now on Monday, we gotta quickly hook her up with a laptop and a business card and an access card and whatnot, because she's now our team member. I mean, everybody's gonna be like, oh, okay, you're the boss, you get to make the decision, that's cool. And it's gonna be a surprising way that this person just suddenly started working for MTN, but it would not have gone through the proper channels. And so when then my boss starts to get, like, the boss lady starts to get, you know, they start to have a fight, they start to not like each other, they start to not agree. That's when then it's gonna be like, Gresham, I didn't even want you. This was what was irritating about you. I was not quite comfortable with it. They did not discuss these things in an interview. How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal with risks? How do you resolve issues? None of that was asked. And so you did not make an informed decision as to whether or not this person would be a proper fit. You just ran on the fact that you got along like a house on fire. But everything else about this person, you only find out as you are going through the modes. They already are working in your company, and you are now finding that you hate the way they resolve issues. You can't stand their risk mitigation strategies. How in the world and the heaven, like, what were you thinking? And then, like, it becomes a very ugly, messy breakup. That's how y'all get into marriages. Like, you just get along with some people out here in these streets. I mean, goodness, I don't know how many people I've gotten along with in my life that I was high-fiving after meeting them for just 2 seconds. But, like, over time, things just kind of did not work out. Because you came to learn that this was not it. So when it comes to marriages, they ought to be interviewed like we're ending up working in a job. You gotta interview. How do you resolve issues? What you need to make? You need to basically not run on just feelings. You know, you gotta run on the potential to actually build a legacy with somebody. And that's why courtship is important. In life, you meet lots of people you get along with. And in life, you have lots of crushes on lots of people, some of whom actually ask you out and so you could date them. But in life, the person that you can actually spend life with, that's rare. That's rare. That's rare. And that's why it's worth a while to interview some people. That's why you don't just run on feelings. And that is also why you don't just run on your own desire to get married. Because then you will accept the proposal of the person that you presently are getting along with. That's exactly how it is that marriages end up, guys, happening if you think about it. You start dating from the age of, 15, 16. And then you have a new boyfriend every 2 years, every 3 years. And the one that just so happens to be in your life when you're about 25. The one that you just so happen to be with when you are around 24, 26, 28, 30. That's the one that, should they propose marriage, I guess I'll marry you. Only because they happen to be at the right place and at the right time. They happen to be at the right place and at the right time. They were in your life at a time when you were ready to get married. You can't marry just based on that. That's why you need to be prepared to wait. I was ready to get married since 22. When I came to Christ, I prayed for the Lord, to the Lord for a husband. And I've been ready since then. I'm 39 and I'm still single. Why? Because ain't nobody ever passed the interview so far. I tried to be courted by some dude called MTN. We lasted 2 months because, goodness, he fell violently short. And then this guy from America also fell violently short. The statistics of which were just obvious that he does not make sense for me. That's what courtship is about. But women, a lot of times it's ladies that do this. You just accept proposals coming from boyfriends just because he's been your man for 4 years. Anybody else could have been there. Anybody else could have dated you during that time. Literally anybody else. And so you just run with whoever is currently the guy that you're always going to the flea market with. The guy that you're always going to the movies with. The one that your family knows. At Bryce Can't. He's the boyfriend. So if he is to propose marriage to you, even when you are severely disquieted by a lot of stuff going on, Guyana, you will marry him. Temba Kimowa proposa unsarinyan. And you are excited. You are out there running around all over Johannesburg telling your girls, I'm engaged. Good for you, girl. Like, good for you. But last time I checked, and that's the thing, girlfriends also have cognitive dissonance. Girl. Or shock at this thing. Last time you were out here complaining, it's only gonna get worse calling along. Last time you were rapping on about this and that, he doesn't do this and that, blah, yeah, whatever. Girl, that stuff is just gonna magnify in a marriage, yo. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. I was gonna go and marry a man that I had complained about so much to my friends. I had this one friend that was a little bit of a, she could scratch some eyeballs out. She was very protective of us all. And so every time we'd mention, like, what do you call this? things that our boyfriends did to us. She would of course comment afagaze about how it is that it's messed up, and next time we go back and are like, oh, I went here and there with my boyfriend. This chick held grudges like hard knock. She held grudges. She was like, how? Yo, it's like, girl, come on. Like, we patched up. We spoke. We fixed it. But she will still be like, oh, okay, sham. And she will have that look on her face like, why in the world are you still with that guy? Snacks going. Now you know. And she was a party pooper. She was a mood dampener. She was the kind of shit to tell you, only flailing a ring on some, I'm getting married on some kena. Yeah, the one all on busy pinky. She was like that. So if at all you did not want your boyfriend, all of it, if you wanted to hide the flaws of your man, if you wanted to essentially peacefully be in a relationship with your boyfriend when you were happy, you needed to be around that friend, prepared to keep your mouth shut even when you're unhappy with him. She was not the kind of girl that you could just go to and talk to about your problems in your relationship and then the next week go back and talk about how happy you are, because she just could not stand the ebbs and the flows. She could not stand the instability, and she would keep on reminding you that, but you're not happy. So if you wanted that girl to shut up and to think of your relationship as excellent, you would have to conveniently omit certain information from her so she would think that your relationship is cool. Yeah, that every girl needs that friend, if you know what I mean. You need the friend that's gonna bring you back down to earth and tell you, kodwa lo muntu lona uyazi ukuthi this thing awuyifuni ngaye. So manje, why are you happy that you're getting married? It's only gonna get worse. It's only gonna get worse. Unfortunately, that same friend, you know, like, yeah, that's the thing. Backstabbing, betrayal, witchcraft, all that jazz. Like, can't you just leave relationships alone? Can't you just leave people to be happy with one another? Don't you desire when ukujabula? Nabangan bako. My lovers with your husband, don't you just want to be happy? But when you keep on bewitching each other, even your virtues lose their je ne sais quoi. You can't just marry people because they're your boyfriends for now. And that's the reason why you can't just continue to keep on getting boyfriends and stuff. It's by happenstance, for crying out loud. Like, you just so happen to be at this particular place and this guy's there and he thinks you're pretty. Like, if a man is not actively walking up to you because he has made an observation of your godliness and is looking for a godly wife, and so that's why he's even sweaty palmed, trying to talk to you, that's not the kind of man that you should be allowing to come into your space. Dating or courting is just so easy when you're in Christ, because you know exactly what you want, so it weeds out a lot of rubbish. It extracts a lot of rubbish out of the room, and it also gives you an interview process that is responsible, and so for those reasons you can make an informed decision. And of course, nobody is perfect, but everybody knows what their deal breakers are. Everybody knows what their deal breakers are, and when deal breakers are present, you need to move on before things get too extreme. And everybody in question needs to be aware that this is an interview process, and so it could go both ways. It could go any way, any direction. So there should not be any expectation. You should not be expected to settle when you're being courted. You should not be expected to automatically accept a proposal. And you also ought to be happy to announce very early when this can't work, that people might be let go from continuing to hope early so they can heal and try again somewhere else. But in the world, you just date, you have fun, you go, you like, I used to, when I was younger, I used to struggle with singlehood. I used to struggle being alone. So I would sometimes date the first guy that would come and ask me out just after I've gotten out of a relationship, because I just did not want to be alone. That's the kind of stuff that can cause you to end up accepting a marriage proposal from a person you're not even in love with. Especially when there is somebody in the past that you've been more in love with. A lot of the people that are married today, when they were kids, when they were younger, there is a man or a woman, a guy or a girl in the past that they loved more. But they ended up married to this guy. This guy. Why? Because he was around when I was 26 and he proposed to me. So now he's my husband. Recipe for adultery. Recipe for disaster. Do you understand what I'm saying? Recipe for divorce. Recipe for being guilt-tripped by children. That's what that is. So all of y'all throwing yourselves into Muriel's wedding. You know them. You know them. You can earmark them. You can pinpoint them. You can spot them. You can identify them. You can call them out in a lineup from a mile away. You know when you're not happy. You know. All the guys that you were compromising, settling with, that you dated in Jeffela because of Boregile. Ungaba call out in a lineup. One after the other. All of your exes. If they were to chill in that like police lineup to go and find the criminal. Ungazi ukuthi uJohn, uJabu, uThemba, no Reggie. I didn't like them. I just dated them because, you know, it was fun. But I liked Spusiso. I was absolutely madly in love with Tebogo. And Tepo, I liked him, but I knew that it was not going to last. And then you look at a little bit of a Jonathan, and Jonathan was the one that, whoa. Like, that was the biggest passion you've ever felt for a man. And Jonathan is in that lineup glowing like that, and yet you're out here married to Reginald. That like proper. Guys, that's what's happening to you. That's what's happening. You can identify when you are not that in love with a guy. And with my ex-boyfriend, I remember I used to say in my heart when I was dating him, Uguti, but I loved my first and my second boyfriend more. I did. The passion in my heart for them was far hotter than this. And why under heaven am I not quite getting that again? I thought that I could never feel that ever again. Like very strong feelings that are just a whirlwind in my heart. There were two guys in the past that I had felt that way about. And the guy that I was with for 5 years, I loved him, but it did not compare. Not even in the slightest. But I was going to marry him. I was going to marry him. If he had proposed to me, I was going to marry him. When I came to Christ, I got down on my knees and I was like, Father, I know I wasn't supposed to date as a teenager. I know I wasn't supposed to date to have sex before marriage. I know I wasn't supposed to do all that. I went on right ahead and tasted forbidden fruit. Like proper, that's what I did. I wasn't supposed to do that. But please have mercy on me. I want to be in love very passionately. And I have made an observation that ever since my first love and my second love, I have not loved like that since. I have not loved any guy like that since. It's just a problem. And I don't want to marry a man that I don't feel that kind of passion for. I know I wasn't supposed to do that, and likely it messed me up. Maybe it broke me. I don't know. Maybe I can never love again because I expired my love then. But just in case that's not true, please have mercy on me and restore me to that kind of passion. I just want to be very in love with my husband in a way that is frankly faint-worthy. And I did not feel that way about the last guy that I was with. Even though I did love him, I cared, I just was not passionately in that with him. I'm asking very much in love. That's it. Can I just be in love? I just want that passion. I'm sorry I squandered it when I was a kid, but now that I am a new creation and you again, that's all I'm asking for. Just to have that level of passion so that I don't feel as if though I'm in love with my husband, but there's somebody that I've loved more. Can I not feel in my marriage like I love my man, but I've loved this particular ex more? That's what recreational dating does to you. It makes out of your husband something you settle for because you can't be with somebody from 2001, for crying out loud. So why under heaven are you accepting that? Because you will ultimately, like the prayer that I prayed to God, that please make sure that I really, really fall heavily in love with my husband so that I don't feel any regret about having basically experienced that kind of love that I will never feel again in the future. There are people who imagine that I guess it was just teenage love, it was that passionate as teenagers and it's not coming back. And then they meet it at 42, married to Jabu. You literally find that kind of passion in your heart for some dude that's somebody else's husband. For some dude that might be somebody else's husband in the sense that he's divorced from his ex-wife and you're married. Or you are both married and the two of y'all are cheating on your spouses with each other. And the passion of that relationship is just like what it is that you felt when you were a teenager, evidencing that the Lord can restore to you that kind of passion insofar as you give it to him. If you give yourselves to him, he can bring it, because if that spark can dwell in you and your lover, your adulterous lover, it was possible. And that's what causes y'all to divorce each other and then marry those people. Go on right ahead to marry those people. A passion that you've never felt before, or at least you haven't felt it since you were 17. And here it is that you are now 42 and you are feeling it. It means that the Lord could have given that to you if you had just waited. If you had just waited. You're literally marrying people that you have flatlined to. You have flatlined. You don't have that many feelings. You don't have feelings anymore. You're just going through the modes and you marry him. You're going through the modes and you marry that. You're marrying something that you're going through the modes with. You're going through the modes, guys, and you marry the modes. What the heck? Like, what are you doing? That's the kind of stuff that causes adultery. It's the kind of stuff that causes remarriage. There are too many people that are not Christian that are caught. It's the kind of stuff that causes marriage and remarriage, divorce, all that jazz. And with that level of insanity in the cosmos, people are going to hell, guys, in their numbers. literally having passed away, happily married to second and third and fourth wives, because they just ignored God. They ignored Jesus. You allowed yourselves to live lives of adultery. Guys, you know, like King Jacob walked with a limp after fighting with God all night, begging him to bless him, and he blessed him, but not first before giving him a limp. I keep saying that you have to be prepared to take a limp in your stride. Take singlehood for the rest of your days, or take singlehood for up until the age of 63. Then your ex-husband passes away. Then only you can remarry somebody at 63. Like, literally take it in your stride. Because if you don't, you are sinning against God, and it's the very thing that also causes women to be very embittered against me. They can't stand me. They can't stand it when I say this. But this thing that I'm speaking now, they had the same convictions at a time before they made the mistakes that they made. When we were all 28, 29, when we were all 27, 26, we had the same convictions. We had been dating guys for very many years. And we knew we wanted to get out. My former best friend was like that. And I was the only one that actually did get out. I was the only one among them that stuck to their guns, that made a decision to leave a guy that I needed to leave and stay gone. And bring back lost love and never worked on me because I gave my life to Jesus. That was the difference. I gave my life to Jesus. And so the spells did not work. My ex-boyfriend would have only been doing himself a disfavor by insisting on marrying me, because at some point we were going to get divorced. I never cheated on that man throughout the relationship when we were dating outside of, I guess, marriage. But I'm not sure if I wouldn't have cheated on him as a married woman, because my head was always in the sky looking for something else, because I knew that was not it. I knew that was not it. So I was prepared to leave him for another guy. But when you're married, what does that then become? You commit adultery. My ex would have been the right guy if he had just stayed the right guy. But like I told you, he dropped the ball, and quite violently, within about 6 months of us dating. And I was frustrated the rest of the time. And I stayed there for 4.5 extra years. The whole time of which I was like, I'm going to end up with another guy. And so I was free, basically, to be pursued. I was with a man, but I was literally looking out for another one. There was a guy in the time that we were dating that I was crushing heavily on at Wits. That guy did not do what he needed to do, and if he had, it was over for my ex. There was also another guy at a different time that I was heavily crushing on at work, Ko MTN. And the one that I was crushing on heavily, Ko MTN, was the one that I ended up thinking would be my future husband even after coming to Christ. That's how much I liked this guy. And if that dude had at any given moment basically rose to the occasion, my ex was like a burner phone. Gone. Nowhere to be seen in the radar, and like recognizable by telecommunications companies. I was just going to forget about him. I was gonna forget him. So I guess my ex was rescued by the fact that guys I crushed on at the time did not ask me out. They did not basically act on their flirtation with me and take it to the next level. That's the only thing. There was another guy that worked for MTN, right? That came at the very end towards the very latter end of our relationship and the beginning of my redemption in Christ. Like, I got saved for Christ shortly after that last guy. And this last guy, my ex and I were always on and off. We kept on breaking up and making up because nang bora. And during the breakup, this dude, he was my friend on Facebook, and he was looking at my life, I was looking at his. We had met at work, however, and he basically collected me and asked me that we went on a date. During a breakup, I had broken up with my ex-boyfriend. He, however, was still with his woman, and I had told myself that I'm gonna kick her out the window. I was a sinner, I was lost. So such things happen in my heart. Of course, I would never do that now because I fear God. But I had an intention to kick the other woman out of the window because I liked this guy so much, and I imagined that I would have the kind of passion that I've been wanting in a marriage from him, because we got along on so many. There was so much that we had in common that excelled above my ex-boyfriend, and he did things that I wanted my ex to do, and he was just like basically hitting bullseyes. And so for me, it was like, if this dude leaves his woman, like, yeah, that's it, like proper. The two of us, like, it would have been like a Bonnie and Clyde pair that had broken the hearts of other people in the past to be with each other. If that dude had made a decision for me, an official and a final one, instead of just taking me out on a date, and my ex would have never been able to come back in because we had broken up at that stage. I was going to wait for him to pack his bags and get out of that relationship, and I was going to go into the sunset with that guy. But he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball on me in the sense that he was indecisive about his girlfriend, and I then went on right ahead to get born again. And so because I got saved, I was like, it's not safe spiritually for me to be doing anything of that nature. Plus the guy wanted nothing to do with Jesus. So I was rescued out of it. However, strangely, that's always the case. After getting born again, he was all up in my grill, that guy. and he ended up using a whole bunch of witchcraft on me, because I guess that's the thing. The devil, when you are trying to leave Bodom, he will try to reel you back in. But I'm using that story to help you understand how my ex was always just on so much thin ice. I didn't cheat on him at any given time. I had only gone on one date with one guy during a breakup of ours, and there was another dude that I also allowed in the somewhere years, maybe like 2 years prior, that was in the leadership program that I used to go to at Liberty Life, that reached out to me. And during a time when my ex and I were broken up yet again and he was acting a fool, I allowed this guy to take me on a couple of dates. See, I was actually like briefly accommodating this guy for something like, my ex and I were broken up during that time for maybe like a month. And in that month I went to, goodness, he came so many times where I stayed to come check. I used to live right in this complex, but in another unit, 3-bedroom unit down the road here. I can't tell how many times I sat in that guy's car for hours on end just chatting. After work, he would come by me, auto checker, and then go home. Like almost daily by that guy. And it was only because I just felt like it was too soon. Like, I'd been with a guy for a couple of years and I felt guilty. I just felt really guilty. So I cut it off. I was like, I can't. And besides, I don't feel like I'm done with my boyfriend. Well, my ex. I don't feel like I'm done with him. So we can't do this. I can't. And that's how that ended. He was hurt, he was crushed, but he moved on. And he was mature and he's moving on. He never used witchcraft on me, and to this day I still give him kudos. So maybe that was the guy. I don't know. What have you. But like, I couldn't because I was guilty. I couldn't because I was entirely guilty. But my ex was always on thin ice. He was on extreme thin ice. And that dude on checker every day, we did make out, even though we did not sleep with each other. So my ex was just on a lot of thin ice. Because he kept on dropping the ball. So if at all that was what was going on in the, like, if that was what was going on when we were dating, I was going to be so severely tempted as a married woman to do the exact same thing. Let's move to the final part so we can finish this off.